I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but there have been so many times, Chris, where guys, if they jump the gun without me and without their coaches, they have broken things and they've screwed things up and they burned through capital they thought they had, but they didn't. And they thought, I'm ready to go spend this money. Like, you don't have that money to spend. You put that on credit and there's a high interest rate and the payback fee is going to take longer than you thought. Welcome to the Family Captain Podcast. I'm your host, I'm your coach, John Michael Clark. On this show, we help Christian husbands grow in family leadership and sex and marriage. So if you believe that Jesus is king and you want to lead your family with strength and love and you want frequency and freedom in your sex life, then you're in the right place. We're going to help you build an incredible family culture where God is glorified and your family is blessed by your strong, loving leadership.
Welcome to the Family Captain Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Farrell. I'm here with John Michael Clark. JM, tell them what the show's about, man.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Family Captain. The Family Captain, the show, the Family Captain, the organization, the Family Captain, the movement. We're about family leadership. We're about sex and marriage for Christian husbands. And we're not sorry for either of those things. Those are things that have been downplayed, minimized, shamed, condemned, and we're shining the glorious light on them. We're just opening our Bibles and we're going, man, this is God's will. This is God's plan. And this makes everybody thrive when we do it well. So we want to make that practical. That's one of the things that we want to be famous for, is helping you to get ruthlessly practical so that you really can crush it, so your wife can absolutely flourish, so your kids can flourish, so God can get all the glory, and so that you can build a family culture, legacy, marriage, all the things that are awesome and that you're excited about. That's what we're here to do today, baby.
That's right, man. That's right. Become the greatest man your wife and kids have ever known. And caveat there, maybe you already are, but where's the bar? You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Where's the bar?
Let's just keep going, man.
That's right.
We had that brother the other day who was sharing a testimonial, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, man, I would have rated my marriage at I forget what he said. You know, it was really high. And he said, but, you know, you guys have taught me the scale you think goes from 1 to 10, and then you see the scale goes to 100, and you see the scale goes to 1,000. He's like, so I think we're at level 12 now.
Let's go.
He's like, we passed 10, we're at 12, we're heading to 100. He's like, I look forward to going to 1,000,000 one day. I'm like,
I love it.
I love it. We're just going to keep growing.
That's right. That's right, man. Yeah, amen. On this particular episode, you and I were kind of ideating, hey, what makes sense to bring to the brothers today? And really it comes from a lot of our experience with guys when they take the next step into a deep dive conversation. And you've had conversations with guys and I've had conversations with guys. And what we've realized over time is that sometimes guys are like, dude, it's so hard to lead my wife. Like, I don't know that she knows how to be led. And so that's really where this whole conversation is centered today. And so with that being said, man, let me just hit you right out of the gate here. I mean, you say that a wife's flesh naturally opposes being led. That's a pretty bold statement. So how do you see this play out in marriages today, and what's the spiritual reality behind this?
Yeah, I think the spiritual reality is the curse. So God's good design for Adam, God's good design for Eve, God's good design for marriage was present before the fall, contrary to what some would say, which was when no headship and submission came in after the fall. That's not what Genesis reveals as we look at the whole text there. So God made everything good, but what happened with the curse and with sin and with the punishment that the Lord brought, now those right things have the opportunity to be frustrated. So the husband's leadership can become sinful. The wife's submission can become soured. So in our flesh, because of the curse now, we have the ability and often the temptation to do it poorly. So that's where you end up with if we were to take the two caricatures, let's give two extremes to paint a better picture. On one end, you've got the domineering husband. So, well, he's technically leading, but he's awful. And that's the thing and nobody wants any part of. That's sinful and wicked, and we reject it. And on the other side, for the wife, well, what's she supposed to be doing? Well, she's supposed to be submitting to and respecting her husband, but instead she's undercutting him, and she's tearing down her house with her own hands, with her disobedience and with her rebellion. So those would be two extremes, two caricatures, and those exist, by the way. I mean, we've probably all seen both of those examples in life, one more than the other. I'll let everybody guess which they think is more frequent in the modern era. But they're both sinful, and we reject them. But those are the temptations that come. So I think that's what a guy would recognize and feel. Culturally, there's a lot at work. There's a lot of teaching. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation in one general direction towards men making sure they're a servant leader. Okay. Or if they're going to be a leader, we'll call them a spiritual leader, but we would never call them the everything leader. So we keep tamping down a man's calling because we're worried about him becoming the terrible thing. But on the feminine side, there's really no biblical correction being made there. In fact, she's being encouraged towards authority. She's being encouraged towards his role, towards filling the vacuum, towards gutting the authority that's been taken from him, and it's now being bestowed upon her, and everyone's celebrating it, which of course is actually feeding against. So we've got all these protections against his sin, and some protections could be wise, but it's gone so far now that we've truly gutted him of any authority. So it's gone way too far. And instead, on the other end, we've been awful to women because we've said authority, authority, authority. Wait a second. We were tamping down his sin, and now we're actually encouraging hers through rebellion, disobedience, lack of submission, and the fact that all those sound like dirty words in a lot of churches. So those are the concerns. You bring the cultural side of it. You bring the fact that Satan is alive and his demonic kingdom is still working against people. You add in the flesh, and it can be very, very difficult.
There's so much there, and that's what we're going to unpack here. So we get on deep dives with guys, we get on calls with guys, and a lot of them are, they're aware that their wife is having a difficult time being led. They're like, I just don't understand. She pushes back. And you mentioned the biblical precedent behind that. But an epiphany that guys get a lot of the times is when we ask them the question of how your wife grew up. So expand on the family tree and the upbringing and how important that is.
Well, we all grew up a certain way. So he grew up a certain way, she grew up a certain way, and we've seen both. We've seen bad tendencies in both. We've seen good tendencies in both. And of course, surprise, surprise, the wholesome father and mother upbringing, it makes it so much easier on that marriage, on their kids. It makes such a difference for boys grow up to know, okay, this is what daddies do. Girls grow up to know this is what mommies do, instead of these are just gender neutral, interchangeable parts. They're not. And I don't even mean in some woke way. I mean in the Christian way, where we just think fathers and mothers are, it's just whatever tasks we agree on when we get married. Those are the things that matter. But whenever it's healthy, man, and boys understand that I'm a protector, I'm a provider, and I'm a leader, and I look forward to that, and they can step up into that because it's what's in them anyway. That's already in them. All we're doing is watering and going, yes, son, those impulses are right. Oh, careful, son. Make sure you don't fall into this temptation. Oh, careful, son. Make sure you don't go too far. Oh, careful, son. Here's with these strengths and with the design the Lord has put in you, son, there will come certain temptations. So, for example, if you have the authority, that's a two-edged sword. You can use that authority to bless, or you can use that authority to harm. But authority is power, for better or worse. We just want to make sure it's for better, son. So we want to train him up in that. Daughters hopefully could learn, wow, this is how I can submit and defer and surrender and be at rest. Surrender not as my hands are up and I'm prisoner. Surrender as in, I surrender and I yield the thing that I don't have to carry. Yeah. And I can give myself to the thing that God has designed me for and built me for, primarily running my household, primarily helping my husband, raising my children. But that's the biblical standard. That's the ideal that we're going to keep chasing. That's the bullseye. But a lot of people haven't experienced that. A lot of women experience harm and harshness at the hands of men. So that starts to tell a story. That starts to build some protections. That starts to create the lack of vulnerabilities that are needed in surrender and in submission and in trust. And then the fears can take over. A lot of times a woman is feeling these fears. She feels this panic. Whether it's a big thing in life or even a small thing, she can get into that habit. And man, she's been living this way 25 years. She's been living this way 35 years. She doesn't know that she doesn't know. She's a fish that doesn't know she's wet. Just like all of us with stuff. There could be lies right now I'm believing that I'm just like, that's just the way life is, isn't it? No, Jamichael. That's something that you've just internalized over and over and over, and it's actually affecting the way you live, and you didn't see it. You need the Holy Spirit to break in, bring revelation, heal you, so you can walk in freedom there. But for many a woman, she experiences fears, she experiences anxiousness. Add on the fact that she's married to an imperfect man, me, for example. So she doesn't just get to go, I have the perfect husband, so if I do my part well, I'm guaranteed he's going to always have a perfect response. She doesn't get that guarantee either. So then she's just, I'm going to stick with what I know. I know how to be controlling. I know how to grasp for power. I know how to cast my vote and have a voice. And now she can pat herself on the back, even in her defiance, because it feels safer and it feels more secure. You add all this stuff together with his flesh, with his temptations, it can be super, super difficult. And when they don't look to the scriptures to go, oof, that's the bullseye, that's the target, and they don't come to a common understanding of that, then man, how could they ever win?
Dude, it's fascinating what you're saying right now because obviously we're all sinful. But what's interesting is we talk about how God is our admiral as men, right? And then women are supposed to biblically submit. But then their sin is pushing against the masculine, right? And then our sin is just laziness and passivity and allowing it to happen. So
Or harshness, depending on
yes, true.
which direction we go.
So true, so true. But what's interesting is we're built to protect, expand, carry all the things, and it seems like guys who are mostly having difficulties is they're like, this woman, she's so hard to lead. She's not submitting to the things, and I know what I'm doing is good and godly. You know, talk to me about the guy that's just been living his life with this 50-50 marriage lie. I know you call it a lie, and so yeah, expand on that.
Yeah, the idea of the whole 50-50 thing, the whole equality thing, there's truth in it and there's a lie in it. The truth is men and women, husband and wives, have equal value and worth. Period. Just so simple.
Amen.
Equal value and worth. There's nothing, I could say it a million times. It's just that's the truth. But people then get confused whenever they don't understand that authority isn't equal. So they don't have equal authority. They have equal value and worth to God, but they don't have equal authority. And funny enough, I like to play this game too, because whenever people start to push back against that idea, they say, "Oh, well, if we don't have equal authority, then we don't have equal value and worth." Well, let's think about this for a moment. God has determined that in the event of, we'll go to an extreme, in the event of life and death situations, one of these people is supposed to die so that the other can survive. Who would that indicate has value and worth, right? I guess men are just worthless then, right? God just wants to kill us. But I never see men going around with like identity crisis going like, why would I have to die? I thought we're equal. So, no one actually believes in equality. It's been said that there's no such thing as a feminist in a house fire. Everybody believes women and children first, if the ship is going down. So people know what's right in their heart of hearts. And of course, whenever they really feel the pain, they want to adopt it and they want to move on with it. But it's that simple. We have equal value and worth, but authority is a different thing. We have equal in value and worth with our children, but every man listening, every woman listening, you would give your life for your child. You have more authority than your child, though. Don't you? You have power over them and you have authority over them given to you by God. So I think a lot of times, Chris, it's just a misunderstanding and maybe a jumping to conclusions, again, because of all the baggage connected to everything. We can't go, oh, we have equal value and worth. You and your boss, you have equal value and worth, but he has authority over you and you don't begrudge it. You're not mad about it. You're not like, who do you think you are? He's like, I think I'm your boss. You think you're better than me? No, I don't think I'm better than you, but I think I have power over you, and it's my responsibility to give you instruction, and it's your responsibility to obey. That makes me worthless. Bro, you have an inability to think. So I don't know if your brain's broken. I don't know if your heart is hard, but like these ideas are pretty simple, and we recognize them in other areas of life. But in marriage, all of a sudden, we tend to stumble.
It's interesting when you say that. I think of companies. There are monster companies, multi-billion-dollar companies. And they do all have, very high-level positions. And they might have multiple of the same high-level position. But there's not one company out there that doesn't have an ultimate authority, right? Like, there has to be an ultimate decision maker. In everything, in just our systems in general, there always has to be like, okay, well, let's eventually point to this. And for us, it's Christ. Like, the Bible talks about how a man who does not have an authority above him, his life falls into complete and utter chaos. And so hopefully, men listening to this and being able to, carry these principles on within their family, they realize like it's good and it's godly to realize that one does have to have authority. And if God did choose us to have authority, then we should honor that, right?
That's what authority is. Authority can't be 50-50. Authority can't be 51-49. Authority is 100-0. And then from there, And you can delegate as much authority as you want, but if you've delegated it, that means you also have the ability to reclaim it. So, yeah, I've delegated authority throughout the team and the family captain. You've delegated authority to your wife. I've had bosses delegate authority to me, but they delegated it. They are still the ultimate authority. Why? Because they're the ultimate responsibility.
Right.
That's how authority works. You can't give a man responsibility and say, it's yours to carry, and then say, a P.S., you don't actually have any power to accomplish anything. That would be a sick joke. God didn't do that in marriage. We don't do that in business. We don't do that in government. Whenever there's a responsibility, there must be the appropriate authority to go along with it. So that's what authority is. Authority is, I have all the power. And of course, we define that here in the family captain. The power to what? The power to do what's best for the people that you love. What if you're wrong? Well, welcome to leadership. It's hard. And that's why we seek the Lord. That's why we seek wisdom. That's why we seek brotherhood. That's why we get coaching, to make sure that we're actually growing in the ways that we should. But whenever that authority is built on the foundation of compassion, and when it's built on the foundation of responsibility, I'm taking ownership for the outcomes, then yeah, we've trusted and we've seen long enough to know that people respond well to that when they know they're being cared for well. But again, everybody's so afraid of someone being domineering that oftentimes they reject authority altogether.
Yeah, and I think you've done a good job of making a distinction between authority and domineering, right? Like authority is the power to do what's right, to do the right thing at the right time, all the things that are taught in the family captain. And domineering is like, I'm a savage. I don't believe there's an authority above me, so I'm just going to be reckless. And so
I'm going to get what I want.
Exactly.
I might not want what's best for you. So that's domineering. Domineering is, I want what I want because I want it. And that's what everybody's afraid of. All of us would hate to be under that kind of leadership. What a terrible prison that is. And yet it's a real possibility. So authority, though, is not that. Control and authority, they have to go together, but they're not automatically bad. They can be corrupted, but they're not automatically bad. So whenever we're doing it well, and like you said, when we were men under submission, guys are like, I want my wife to submit. Bro, submit to Jesus.
Amen.
Make sure you're really submitting to Jesus. And then from there, that's what we're counting on. I'm betting, I'm guessing, call me crazy. But as difficult as she might be, talk about an extreme case, I bet she'll probably respond well to the greatest man she's ever known. Amen. So how about let's become that guy? Let's focus on leveling up. Well, shouldn't she oughta? There's a lot of things she should be doing. She should be obeying the whole Bible, just like you. But since we can't control her, let's come back to our obedience to Jesus and count on the fact that we're going to build leadership capital with her, and that she's going to look around and go, there's a new man around here. Not that she's automatically going to go, wow, I've suddenly learned feminine surrender, and I'm eager to be your helper, and I see that I'm the crown to your life, and I see that I'm your first officer, and I'm so, like, I have no expectations that she's going to adopt any of that language right away, which is one of the reasons I tell guys, it's like Fight Club. Rule number one about Fight Club, don't talk about Fight Club. Rule number one about headship and submission, don't talk about headship and submission. Don't go, hey, babe, here's headship and submission. I want to teach you all about it. If she has a humble heart, then that'll be easy, and you can do that, and you already know that, and there's really no stumbling block. But if she doesn't, all you're doing is tearing through leadership capital that you don't have and just putting yourself in debt. You're going to trigger her unnecessarily. She's going to latch those ideas and concepts onto her worst case scenarios, and you have now made your journey longer and slower and more difficult. You can still get there, but the better path would have been to give her a new husband, make sure it's you, and then let's see how she responds over time.
Amen. Amen to that, man. And let me get ruthlessly practical here. We talk about this concept of guys allowing their wife to be the ultimate veto in decision-making for the family. Dude, poke somebody in the chest right now. What are the signs of that? And coach me through it.
Yeah, veto power is the 100% authority answer. Whoever has the power to veto something, they're the one really in authority. Even if they've delegated a lot of authority. There's some situations, Chris, where the wife is completely and clearly in authority, but she's delegated so much authority to him. So she's actually the captain. There's all kinds of problems there. We could go on and on and on to talk about the challenges, the tension she's carrying, the anxieties, the fears, the lack of polarity, the lack of sexual desire for one another. All those things are present in a situation like that. But she could have delegated authority to him But ultimately, if he has to still come back and check with his wife. And some guys are going to push back on this language right away. So guys, remember, listen to what I'm saying and don't listen to what I'm not saying. I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not saying what I'm not saying. Some guys are already like fired up going, a loving husband will communicate with his wife. Who said that he shouldn't? Where did you hear that? You didn't hear it from me. You jumped to that conclusion all by yourself because I didn't teach that. I don't believe that. And I don't practice that. Why? Because we stand on all three legs of leadership. Compassion. You love your family a lot and they know it. Responsibility. You take ownership for all the outcomes. Authority. You have the power to do what's best for your family. So how might this show up? I have the authority to do whatever I think is right and best. The Lord has given me that authority. And yet, in my compassion for my wife, I was talking to a friend yesterday about this. I'm always watching and measuring Natalie's energy levels. I'm an extrovert, so I could party all day and all night with all the people, and I'm just like charged up to overflowing by the whole thing. And then you got people like Chris, and you got people like Natalie. They love people. I want to clarify the whole introvert thing because some people think introverts like hate people. You shouldn't. If you hate people, that's an unhealthy heart issue. Sure. But introverts, they can enjoy those things, but their batteries are also being depleted throughout the process. They still love people. They still like people. They can still be a people person. But as I'm being charged up with all the peopleness, they're being depleted over time by all the peopleness. Yeah. So I want to do all the things. I want to say yes to this and yes to that and yes to this and yes to that. And I could do that. And I could say, hey, baby, we're doing this. So-and-so's coming over Tuesday. Remember, so-and-so's coming over Wednesday. Like I'm a pastor, so there's like a lot of things going on all the time through the church and through ministry things. But I deliberately make sure that I protect and guard her. Hey, there's that birthday party coming up. That snotty-nosed kid's having a birthday party Saturday we got invited to. We're not going to go. We are going to go, whatever. Yeah. But I'm guarding her and I'm checking on all those things because I care for her. So my point is, though, but I do have the authority. And I do have the authority to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and I believe it's right. Now, you suffer the consequences. If you're intense and you're not caring for your wife, then she's going to be withered up. She's not going to flourish in the greenhouse. So this is why we always emphasize all three legs. But authority is real. Authority matters. You should use your authority always in conjunction with, I am checking on her, but I have veto power. It's mine. Yeah. It's just simple. It's not a big deal. I'm not excited about it. It's just the reality. It's not exciting. And anybody who gets too excited about it, like the authority, the power, that's what I want. Like, well, you don't really know what leadership's about. That's the childish approach. Whenever people have the idea that says, why do you get to have veto power? Why do you get to tell me, but I don't get to tell you? That's someone speaking who doesn't understand leadership. That's someone speaking who doesn't actually understand the weight of leadership and the weight of responsibility and what they call in the military the burden of command. It's the immature leader, the little boy, the little girl, the immature man, the immature woman. Why do they get to? You're getting ready to expose yourself, getting ready to reveal that you don't know. You think leadership is a preferred parking spot. You think leadership is getting your way, when really Christ-like leadership is looking around, considering Natalie, considering Elijah Fane, considering Brock, considering Hudson, considering me. I'm not worthless. I'm not worthless. I do matter, and I should love myself. The Bible takes for granted that you would love yourself. If no man ever hated his own flesh, that's in the marriage passages. So all that's there. So I'm not deliberately trying to martyr myself, but now I need to make a decision to do what's best. And I have ultimate veto power to do that. And I can't give that to her because it's not her role. God hasn't given it to her. So if I do that, then I'm just like Adam. And then the Lord will rebuke me just like he rebuked Adam. Because you listened to the voice of your wife. Doesn't mean because you sought your wife's counsel and you cared for her tenderly in this non-sinful issue. But Adam sinned against God. God said, because you listened to the voice of your wife. So it wasn't her responsibility. It wasn't her call to make, but he submitted to it. And bad things can happen in those situations. So bad things can happen when a man leads poorly as well. We see biblical examples of it going both ways. But we've got to keep being clear about what the bullseye is and where the targets really are.
I'm going to go back to your definition of domineering, because you said something to the effect of like it's I have the power to do what I want to do, and I don't really care about other people in this instance. I think guys, and you tell me whether you agree with this or not, I think guys, in the name of like keeping the peace, act like they're not literally doing the same thing by being weak and allowing our wives to make all the decisions and knowing, oh, she's not going to be mad at me. Like, maybe I'll get the sex later, all the things. So,
Sure.
what do you think about that tie-in? Maybe it's
I think
not
it's real.
domineering, but
We've all felt the pressure. Yeah, the domineering, the extreme guy. Again, that's the one that takes all the heat from culture. And if you ask anybody, every husband's like that, Like any person will be like, men just want to dominate women and all these things. And you hear all kinds of storylines of things that are real, but things that are the extreme minority. Thank God. The extreme majority, unfortunately, is the real problem in this moment. Is rebellious wives who, and I'm talking about Christians. I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about Christian wives who don't love the scriptures and don't want to embrace obedience there. But I'm not letting you brothers off the hook. And you're like, yeah, that's right. It's the Christian women. But guys, we've enabled it. Like we've enabled it with fear because she can escalate with emotion. She can raise her voice. She can get tearful. And I'm like, I don't like this. I mean, we're not comfortable with that stuff, man. So it can become an ultimate trump card. And it can become the way that she can win. And I mean, I've talked to so many guys, Chris. You've talked to so many guys. I ask the question sometimes. I'm like, hey, does your wife apologize? And sometimes guys are like, yeah. They're both godly people. He repents, she repents. They walk in grace together. Praise the Lord, as it should be. But then other times, like, no, dude, I'm the only one who ever apologizes. Like, that's crazy. That's some crazy stuff where a guy's stuck in this habit of he brings up a displeasure with his wife or a preference of any kind, and he's been thinking about it for weeks. Man, that's crazy. That's a red flag for you, brothers. If there's a thing that's untouchable, if there's something you can't talk about with your wife, but it matters to you and you would like to, there's your sign that you already have some weird power play going on where you're going to get gaslit into oblivion, or you're going to be screamed at, or there's some fear interacting in you instead of just being able to gently, but also plainly, gently and also with direct speech. Hey, baby, there's something I want to talk to you about. It's really important to me. It's this and this and this and this and this. Oh my goodness, that wouldn't go over well. Well, that's her responsibility. Your responsibility is to be an honest man who actually has told the truth about what he wants, about what he believes, about what he thinks we should do with the kids or the relationship or the church or whatever. Like, you're married to this woman. You ought to be able to talk to her. By the way, she ought to be able to talk to you as well. But in those moments, a guy really learns, man, have I been passive? Am I scared to do what's best and do what's right because I'm not willing to stand through the consequences? And then there's something in him. There's some fear. There's some insecurity. If she's upset with me, I won't be okay. Something in him is believing some lie that I can't deal with her being upset with me. It's too much. It's too much turmoil. Instead of having the standard that says, I want to do what the Lord wants. And man, I need to be able to communicate with the person I'm married to, the woman I made vows to. The two have become one, but the two can't talk about anything. So guys on eggshells oftentimes don't do that. I wonder if that's what happened, with Abraham. That Sarah, she wants a baby so bad. And then she comes up with this idea. Hey, take Hagar, take my servant. And Abram, did he push back? Did he not push back? How did that work? But this is a bad plan. Don't listen to the voice of your wife in that moment. This is going to lead to bad outcomes globally, and unfortunately still to this day leads to horrible outcomes in the earth through false religion and demonic idols and murder and all kinds of things. But I do the same thing to lesser degrees, to greater degrees, whenever I play the role of the nice guy. And I say, well, I want to be a blessing to my wife. I want to please my wife. Well, Eve took a bite of this fruit. I don't want her to have the only stupid look on her face. I'll take a bite too. Sarah really wants a baby. All right, it'll be her baby because she's our servant, and we'll make this stuff work. These are things that never lead to long-term flourishing. We actually have to take ownership of those outcomes and go, I got to do what I believe is right. The Family Captain is all about helping Christian husbands to build an incredible marriage and family culture. It's self-leadership, it's family leadership, it's sex and marriage, all made practical so husbands, wives, and children can enjoy God's best and truly thrive. It's one thing to believe that Christians should have the best marriages and sex lives. It's another thing to know how to make it all happen. But inside our Family Captain Elite coaching program, that's exactly what you're going to learn. In the Family Captain Elite, men are not only equipped with the conviction to act, but also with the wisdom to navigate their exact situations. And they get a clear, practical path to get them the incredible fruit that they're after. So if you want to take your marriage and family culture from just fine to incredible, then go to thefamilycaptain.com and book a free assessment call to see if the Family Captain Elite program really is a good fit for you. That's thefamilycaptain.com. Family leadership is a high calling for your life. So what are you waiting for?
I want to go back to what you were saying. You started to kind of talk about how to approach your wife and say, hey, this is bothering me. And you, in the past, have talked about this concept of, like, you hurt my feelings, and how there's a deeper truth behind that. And when your wife says you hurt my feelings, like, how should a leader respond without just kind of bowing down to the emotions?
Right. I hurt your feelings. I guess I need to apologize, right? And that was what I was starting to say earlier, is a lot of times guys, they'll come with a displeasure, or they'll share something, and then by the time the thing's over with, 2 days later after the cold shouldering and the fight, he's apologizing. He doesn't even know what for, but as long as he kisses the ring, we can move on with regularly scheduled programming until his frustration builds up with that thing that he tried to bring up. How did he not bring it up? And 6 months later, he tries to bring it up again, and the cycle starts over. How are you doing this to me again? I can't believe you would say that. And he's like, what? I must be the worst husband ever. She's crying. Her tears are evidence of my sin. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? So yeah, many guys have been stuck in that trap. So the thing she can go into next is, whenever he's bringing up the thing that's important to him, or whatever, let's take a super typical thing. He thinks mama is not structured enough with the little ones. He sees the little ones walking all over mama. Mama's a nurturer. We praise God for it. But with that comes the liability of being too passive, and the baby's getting their way, and they whining a little bit. The kid's going, oh, mom, all right. And she caves. So dad's going, hey, baby, I want to talk to you about something. We need to hold a clearer standard for the kids with bedtime, or with snacks, or with screens, or with whatever the thing is where mom's being manipulated by the kids, and they're taking advantage of her tenderness, and they're taking advantage of mom. So baby, it's really an important shift that we need to make. I'm going to do a better job of backing you up because, I haven't done that perfectly. So I'm going to make sure that they honor your word. But I need you to make sure they honor your word as well. Well, it's not easy. You're gone all day and you don't know what it's like. So unfortunately, she didn't submit right then in that example. She's defending, she's explaining, she's rationalizing. She's not going, you're right, I need help there. Could you help me think through it? That'd be like perfect, right? Which none of us are. So instead, she could be defending, or she could get even worse, and she could be like, wow, I guess you're just the perfect dad. Okay, now that's just like gaslighting kind of stuff, and I guess I'm a terrible mom. I guess we'll never do anything right. And this is where he's got a choice to make. Does he back up and go, oh my goodness, she took it wrong? No, she didn't take it wrong. This is called manipulation. She's trying to train you in this moment to back off. And if you do, then your kids are going to lose out for it, and she's going to lose out for it. You were coming in with an objective good that you wanted to correct and bring help to your household to, which is your responsibility, because you're responsible for this place. So you better proceed forward. And of course, again, we want to do that with gentleness. We want to do it with compassion. Hey, baby, you're not the worst mom in the world. I didn't say that. I don't believe. Well, I feel like it. Okay, well, if you got some feelings around those things, that's different. I can help you process all that. But that's the thing that he's got to be willing to do. He's got to have the courage to not back up as soon as some heat comes. And he goes, I don't know how to handle this. This is uncomfortable. Well, what's your option, bro? 10 more years of kids walking all over mama? You're not going to like it when they're 15. It doesn't get better when they're 19. So be the man that you need to be. Show up with the strength that you need to show up with, and proceed forward to help her through. Well, you hurt my feelings. Back to your point, Chris. Hurt my feelings. Why do people say that? I do like it in that it's a step towards vulnerability, but it's nowhere near what's really going on. Because when Chris says something to me that he doesn't like, and I reply with, Chris, you hurt my feelings, I'm really not attempting vulnerability there as much as I'm attempting an accusation. I want Chris to change. I want Chris to take it back, or I want Chris to drop it. I'm not trying to communicate, hey man, here's what I'm going through right now. Hey Chris, when you brought that issue up, I felt really embarrassed. I didn't blame Chris for anything in that. That was actually vulnerable. But I don't want to do vulnerability. I want to tell Chris, you hurt my feelings. Which feelings did I hurt? My sad feelings. You know, like no one's ever pulled that thread on anybody and actually made them explain like, you know, you just really hurt my feelings because I try and be a good mom and blah, 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 blah. Hey, baby, you are a good mom. We're all growing though, and this is something that I've noticed. So I wanted to bring it to my wife, who I love, who I want to see walk in more peace with the kids. And I want to make sure you have more authority with the children. And I want to make, well, they don't listen to me the way they listen to you. I understand that, baby. But that's just because, you know, they're allowed to get away with different things. And that's what I want to help you to shift. Well, you're hurting my feelings. So in that moment, brother, you want to ask her, what are you feeling? Because you're hurting my feelings isn't real vulnerability. You're hurting my feelings is take it back. I can't believe you said that to me. Or drop it and leave me alone and let me keep doing what I'm doing. So instead of just caving to you hurt my feelings, you need to find out what is the feeling. What are you feeling, baby? Now, again, for the wife who's not ready for that, she's probably not willing to say what she's actually feeling in that moment because she's probably feeling guilt. Maybe she knows that he's right. Maybe she's embarrassed by the whole thing because of her pride. She's like, I thought I was mom of the year and I've been working so hard at everything and now he's bringing this correction to me and I feel embarrassed. All that's really vulnerable. Maybe she's not to the place mature enough to be able to communicate that way. So you hurt my feelings feels like a safer thing. Brothers, what you want to be able to do, though, is to be tender. You want to be compassionate in those moments, but not submissive. You can't back away from the standard that you were pursuing to say what's best and what's right. Hey, baby, I love you, and I want to help you forward. Well, I just feel so terrible, and, you know, I just feel so bad about myself. Okay. Now she's just running the pity train and hoping that you'll get on it and be like, you know what? I'm just going to drop this whole thing because she needs some encouragement. Hey, if that girl needs some encouragement, you better keep her encouraged, brother. You better be praising her all the time. Praise all the good that you see. But that doesn't mean we can never speak to things that need to be changed. So some guys, their problem is their wife is just really like empty. She's not thriving. And all he brings is his correction. He's like, this is a great example. That she says that junk to me all the time. Hang on, bro. Hang on, hotshot. Are you encouraging? Are you gentle? Are you tender with her? Like, all these are defaults that I'm taking for granted. And I'm assuming that you're living with your wife in an understanding way. I'm assuming that she knows how adored she is, how treasured she is. And I'm assuming that she's not just a victim of your exasperation and she can never get anything right. The meals, the kids, the household, the schedule, whatever authorities you've supposedly delegated to her or maybe just dumped in her lap because of your own negligence. Like, there's a lot at play. So I know some of the guys are listening. They're getting excited. Like, yeah, she does that wrong. She does this wrong. Okay, hang on. What's she doing well? Where have you praised her? Where are you encouraging her? We got to make sure that it's not the same. It's not the passive-aggressive Oreo we've all been told about. Hey, Chris, you've been doing a great job lately. Something I need to bring up. And then I got to put the other sandwich on the other end. You're doing a great job. Like, if I've got a healthy relationship with Chris, I probably don't have to always come in with the passive aggressive or manipulation sandwich to bring the correction. I can just be like, hey Chris, let's make a change on this, and I want you to do it like that. And he's like, yeah, man, cool. And it's all in the flow of a healthy relationship.
Right.
But I don't think we always have to use the Oreo method or the sandwich method. Like,
it's a little corporate, but yeah.
You sneak the medicine in there a little bit and hope it goes down. So all these things matter, brothers. Yes, you have authority. Yes, you should walk it out. Yeah, I'm about to. Hang on. You seem a little too fired up. You heard the compassion thing, right? And you heard the ownership thing. So yeah, they all work together, and it's really important at all times.
Yeah. Incredible insights there. Really helpful. I know dudes are listening and they're getting a lot out of this episode. I want to flip it. As we conclude this episode, we bring correction. Right? We bring correction to our wife. Now, you don't have the luxury of knowing what to praise for the person who's listening and watching right now. but you do have the insight to know what possibly is going on given the content we've talked about today. So with that being said, as we conclude this, JM, I mean, give me encouragement as a man. I've realized, dude, we're not a 10, we're not a 12, we're not anywhere close to the scale and where it should be. Where can I start to reclaim my leadership? What's the next step?
Your self-leadership is always going to pay off. It's going to pay off because it's focused on your obedience to the Lord. And building leadership capital is always a good plan. I've coached so many guys, Chris, where they're so eager and they're, maybe they're like 4 weeks in and like, hey, coach, I got a question. I'm like, yeah, brother, hit me. And they go, here's the scenario. Here's the situation. It's been going on like this for years. It's a frustration with a wife. Let's just say that. And I really want to see this go different. Things are good. We're in a really good place, but there's this thing, and I'm ready to move forward, coach. Give me a play to run to beat this defense, whatever that issue might be. And as I'm reading the scenario, as I'm reading the room, as I'm reading my client, I know all of his context. I'm going, talk to me about that in 10 weeks and tell me if it still exists. Or talk to me about that in 5 weeks and tell me if it still exists. I'm not ignoring it, and I'm not saying it doesn't matter. But there have been so many times, Chris, where guys, if they jump the gun without me and without their coaches, they have broken things. And they've screwed things up, and they burned through capital they thought they had, but they didn't. And they thought, I'm ready to go spend this money. Like, you don't have that money to spend. You put that on credit, and there's a high interest rate, and the payback fee, it's going to take longer than you thought. But there have been other times where I've told guys, hey, let's revisit it in 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, I want to revisit it, knowing good and well, I'm hoping that it's not even going to exist anymore. And we've seen that happen over and over and over and over again, where he just kept focusing on leveling up. He kept his eyes off of her, and he kept his eyes on himself and on controlling the things that would bless her. So let's not do any of the things that would bring direction or correction yet. I shouldn't say any, because it's probably happening in the context of a regular marriage and life anyway. But to no new level. Like, I don't want her antenna to go up and go, oh no, what's happening? The only thing I want her antenna going up for is like, this is nice. That's different. That's different, but I like it. I want her to experience a million that's different, but I like it's with my clients. And she's like, this is nice. There's a new man around here. Ooh, that's different. That's nice. That's different. That's nice. So we've stacked so much capital. But what's happened so many of those occasions is I've asked him about it later and said, hey, tell me about that situation. He's like, oh my goodness, dude. That just vanished. I was like, yeah, and you didn't even realize it, did it? He's like, it's not even a thing. I'm like, yeah, and we never had to have the sit down like, honey, buckle up. We're going to have a talk. Because communication is the most important thing in the world, right, Chris? That's what I've always been told. Communication. Have you tried communicating? If you'll just communicate, then everything will be fixed. Dude, everybody knows it's not true.
Yeah.
But everybody keeps saying it. I don't know why people keep saying it. But when he levels up, and all of a sudden he's like, that's not even a thing anymore. That hasn't even happened anymore. I'm like, praise the Lord. Yeah. Well, we didn't even have to spend any capital. We could have spent it. Maybe you had it. Maybe you didn't. But now it doesn't even matter because it's gone. If guys will have patience, if they will walk in wisdom, if they will have self-control, go, hey, I want to address that. I love that you're not a coward anymore. That's important. That's a big step for all of us, to not be afraid to do it. Now that you're not afraid to do it, now your next step is, I want you to seek the wisdom of God for the when and the how. Because a lot of guys were like, I don't want to be a coward anymore. I don't want to be a coward, Chris. It's a big deal for me. Like, I really, I don't want to be a coward. But in all my zeal to not be a coward, I could easily run to the other ditch and be like, look at me not being a coward. I'll say anything. I don't care. Glad you're not a coward, Joe Michael, but you're a fool. So you move from one ditch to another. Mm-hmm. So we want to walk in wisdom, and we want to walk in grace, and we don't want to exasperate anybody, not our wives, not our children. So that's the play, man. Mm-hmm. Self-leadership, lots of wins to be gathered, lots of growth to be gained there.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Dude, so good. If guys have been listening for any amount of time, they know in the description below, Family Captain Elite, check it out. Book an assessment call with us, and you can find out more about the program. There's a clear blueprint to your self-leadership and leveling up as a man, becoming the greatest man your wife and kids have ever known. This episode was awesome, dude. Guys, make sure you comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Share it, please. let's get this past all the algorithms. And until next time.
Go captain your ship. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Family Captain Podcast. Now go take some action and serve by leading well. Also subscribe, leave a review so more men can find the podcast and be helped. And if you're ready to take your growth to the next level and you'd like more support, check out thefamilycaptain.com for our resources that'll help you accelerate your journey. And until next time, go captain your ship.